Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. What does it mean to live life without attachment, without distraction, and without regret? To walk a path of discipline, self-reliance, and inner mastery. This was the philosophy of Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's most legendary swordsman, who distilled his wisdom into a set of principles known as Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. Miyamoto Musashi was not just a warrior, he was a philosopher, artist, and strategist. He lived in an age of samurai warfare, winning over 60 duels, never losing a single fight. But toward the end of his life, after perfecting his two-sword fighting style and achieving mastery in combat, he withdrew from the world to reflect on the deeper nature of existence. Just 1 week before his death, Musashi wrote down 21 principles that encapsulated his way of life. These were not rules for battle, but for the mind, for the spirit, and for living with clarity and strength. The first principle of Dokkodo is, accept everything just the way it is. Musashi believed that suffering comes not from what happens, but from our resistance to it. Instead of fighting against reality, we must face it directly. Life unfolds as it will. Our task is not to wish for something different, but to adapt and move forward without hesitation. The second principle is, do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Musashi warned against indulging in fleeting comforts that weaken the mind. True strength comes from self-discipline, from mastering desires rather than being controlled by them. This does not mean rejecting joy, but rather avoiding addiction to temporary pleasures that distract from the larger journey. Another core teaching is, think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Musashi understood that ego is a trap. Those who think too much of themselves become rigid and blind, while those who see beyond themselves gain true insight. By humbling ourselves and observing the world with an open mind, we grow wiser and stronger. Dokkodo also teaches, be detached from desire your whole life long. Most people live trapped in their wants, wanting success, approval, comfort, or control. But Musashi saw that attachment creates weakness. The warrior must be free, unburdened by possessions, expectations, or the approval of others. True power comes from inner stability, from walking one's own path without being swayed by external forces. A striking principle in Dokkodo is, do not fear death. To Musashi, death was not something to be obsessed over or feared. It was simply part of life, like the changing of seasons. A person who fears death is never free, always clinging, always afraid to act. But one who accepts death fully lives with a clear and fearless mind, moving through life with purpose. Dokkodo is not a philosophy of isolation, but of independence. The phrase, do not seek to possess either goods or fiefs for your old age, reflects Musashi's rejection of materialism. He believed that wealth, status, and possessions were temporary distractions. Instead of hoarding resources for an uncertain future, one should focus on living fully in the present, prepared to meet whatever comes without dependence on external security. Musashi also advises, do not hold on to regret. The past cannot be changed, and dwelling on mistakes only weakens the spirit. The way of the warrior is to learn, adjust, and move forward without looking back. This does not mean ignoring past lessons, but rather refusing to let them become chains that hold us down. One of the most powerful principles of Dokkodo is respect Buddha and the gods, but do not rely on them. Musashi was not against spirituality, but he believed in self-reliance above all. A warrior must take responsibility for their own actions, not wait for divine intervention. The path to mastery, in life or in battle, is through one's own effort and discipline. Musashi's philosophy also extends to the mind, with the principle never be jealous. Envy is a waste of energy. It focuses on what others have rather than what we can achieve ourselves. The way of the lone warrior is one of self-improvement, not comparison. Every moment spent in jealousy is a moment lost from one's own growth. Dokkodo is a philosophy of simplicity and self-control. Do not act following customary beliefs. Musashi warns against blindly following traditions just because they are familiar. A warrior must think for themselves, question what is taught, and find their own truth rather than accepting what society dictates. Even in the simplest things, Musashi advises restraint. Do not eat too much. This is not just about food, but about excess in general. Overindulgence clouds the mind and weakens the body. True mastery requires balance, and this extends to all areas of life, from speech to possessions to emotions. Musashi's final principles emphasize the impermanence of life. Do not have expectations for the future. Plans can be made, but nothing is certain. A warrior must be adaptable, prepared for any outcome without being attached to any single vision. Do not collect weapons or practice with weapons beyond what is useful. Musashi, the greatest swordsman of his time, understood that skill was more valuable than objects. A sword in the hands of a master is more powerful than 100 swords in the hands of a fool. Finally, never stray from the way. This last principle reminds us that discipline is not a temporary effort. It is a lifelong path. Musashi lived and died by the principles of self-reliance, mastery, and detachment. Dokkodo is not a code for warriors alone, but for anyone seeking clarity, strength, and independence in a world full of distractions and illusions. In a time where people are constantly chasing validation, possessions, and fleeting comforts, Musashi's wisdom is more relevant than ever. The way of walking alone does not mean isolation. It means walking without dependence, without fear, and without hesitation. It is the way of the warrior, the way of discipline, and ultimately the way to true freedom. Mono no aware. There is a Japanese philosophy that teaches us to embrace the fleeting nature of life, to find beauty in the moments that pass, and to appreciate the sadness that comes with impermanence. It is called mono no aware, a concept that does not seek to fight against the passage of time, but rather invites us to deeply feel its effects and recognize the quiet beauty in everything that fades. Unlike Western ideals that often strive for permanence, this way of thinking finds meaning in transience, ephemerality, and the gentle sorrow of knowing that nothing lasts forever. The phrase mono no aware can be translated as the gentle sadness of things or an awareness of impermanence. It is a feeling more than a doctrine, a sensitivity to the passage of time and the way everything in life, no matter how beautiful, is destined to change. This awareness does not lead to despair, but to a deep appreciation for fleeting moments, a kind of poetic sorrow that makes experiences even more meaningful. One of the most famous symbols of this philosophy is the cherry blossom. In Japan, cherry blossoms bloom brilliantly for just a short time before their petals begin to fall, carried away by the wind. The beauty of the blossoms is heightened not because they last forever, but because they are so brief. The moment of their fullest bloom is already a step toward their disappearance. Yet, rather than mourning their passing, people gather every year to appreciate them, understanding that the very fact that they will not last is what makes them so precious. This feeling extends beyond nature. It can be found in a child's laughter, knowing they will soon grow older, or in a shared moment with a loved one, knowing that time will eventually separate you. Even a well-loved book, its pages yellowing over the years, holds this quiet emotion, a recognition that everything, no matter how deeply cherished, is in a state of change. Mono no aware is not about resisting this truth, but about fully embracing it. Unlike other philosophies that seek to overcome suffering by detaching from emotions, this way of thinking encourages people to feel deeply, to allow themselves to be moved by the world, and to accept that sadness is an inseparable part of beauty. It teaches that loss does not erase meaning. If anything, it gives meaning to what came before. This philosophy applies to how we live. In today's fast-paced world, people often seek permanence, lasting success, lasting relationships, lasting happiness, but nothing in life remains unchanged. Children grow up, friendships shift, places that once felt like home are left behind. Mono no Aware does not see this as something to grieve, but as something to cherish. It asks us to be present, to appreciate things while they are here, and to accept their passing with grace rather than resistance. It is a perspective that challenges us to rethink how we value moments. Do we only appreciate things when they last, or can we find joy in the fleeting, knowing that nothing was ever meant to stay the same? This philosophy reminds us that just because something is temporary does not mean it is any less meaningful. If anything, impermanence makes things more precious. In a world where people often chase after stability and certainty, Mono no Aware teaches a different kind of wisdom, one that finds depth in emotion, that embraces both joy and sorrow, and that sees the beauty in the things that slip through our fingers. Instead of fearing change, it encourages us to accept it, to feel it fully, and to treasure every moment before it is gone. This way of thinking does not seek to remove sadness. It teaches us to sit with it, to understand it, and to see that within it there is also beauty. It asks us, do we allow ourselves to truly feel the passing of time? Can we find meaning in moments that will never come again? And can we appreciate the fragile, fleeting nature of life rather than fear it? Mono no Aware is not about holding on. It is about learning to let go with gratitude, knowing that everything in its own way is beautiful precisely because it cannot last forever. Wabi-Sabi. In a world that often seeks perfection, there is a Japanese philosophy that teaches the beauty of imperfection, impermanence, and simplicity. It is called Wabi-Sabi, a way of seeing the world that embraces flaws, the fleeting nature of life, and the quiet elegance of things that are incomplete. Unlike Western ideals that value symmetry, permanence, and flawlessness, this philosophy reminds us that true beauty lies in the unfinished, the weathered, and the naturally imperfect. The concept is deeply rooted in Zen Buddhism, particularly in its teachings on impermanence and simplicity. Wabi originally referred to a sense of rustic simplicity, humility, and quiet solitude, while Sabi described the beauty that comes with age, wear, and the passage of time. Together they form a philosophy that finds deep meaning in things that are transient, flawed, and natural. A cracked teacup, a faded wooden door, or the way autumn leaves scatter on the ground, these are all reflections of this worldview in everyday life. This way of thinking is perhaps best expressed in Japanese aesthetics, from the rough textures of handmade pottery to the weathered walls of an old temple. In the traditional Japanese tea ceremony, pottery is often chosen not for its perfection, but for its asymmetry, rough edges, and unique flaws. These irregularities are not seen as defects, but as a reflection of the natural world, where nothing is ever truly perfect, yet everything holds its own quiet beauty. One of the most powerful expressions of this philosophy is the art of kintsugi, or golden repair. In this practice, broken pottery is repaired using lacquer mixed with gold, silver, or platinum. Instead of trying to hide the cracks, kintsugi highlights them, turning what was once seen as broken into something even more beautiful. It is a reminder that our imperfections and scars are not something to be hidden. They are part of our story, making us who we are. Beyond art and design, this philosophy is a way of living. It teaches us to embrace the passage of time rather than resist it. In a world obsessed with youth, there is a unique beauty found in aging, in the wrinkles that come with experience, and in the natural cycles of life. It invites us to slow down, appreciate simplicity, and let go of the need for control. Instead of chasing after perfection, it encourages us to see the beauty in what already exists. This approach to life is also deeply connected to mindfulness. By focusing on the present moment and appreciating things as they are, we can cultivate a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. The philosophy encourages us to be fully engaged in the simple pleasures of life, drinking a warm cup of tea, feeling the breeze on our skin, or watching the changing colors of the seasons. These everyday experiences, when appreciated fully, become moments of deep beauty and connection. At its core, this philosophy is about acceptance, accepting that nothing lasts forever, that things will break, that time will change everything, and that imperfection is not only inevitable, but meaningful. It is an invitation to stop seeing flaws as mistakes, and to instead recognize them as part of the story of existence. This idea is not exclusive to Japan. Similar perspectives can be found in Stoicism, Romanticism, and Minimalism, which also emphasize the value of simplicity, resilience, and seeing beauty in the ordinary. In today's fast-paced, technology-driven world, this mindset offers a much-needed antidote to the pressure of perfection. It reminds us that a home does not need to be flawless to be warm and inviting. A person does not need to be without flaws to be whole. A life does not need to be perfectly planned to be meaningful. It challenges us to ask, can we find peace in imperfection? Can we appreciate the fleeting moments instead of trying to make them last forever? Can we see beauty in the everyday things we often overlook? This approach to life is not about giving up on improvement. It is about shifting our perspective. It teaches that meaning is not found in achieving a flawless existence, but in embracing the imperfections that make life uniquely beautiful. Instead of looking for what is missing, it invites us to appreciate what is already there. The cracks, the worn edges, the marks left by time, these are not signs of failure, but evidence of life, experience, and authenticity. By embracing this way of seeing the world, we can learn to appreciate not just the beauty in the world around us, but the beauty within ourselves. Ikigai, reason for being. Today, many people struggle to find meaning in their daily lives. Thankfully, there is a Japanese philosophy that offers a profound yet simple answer. It is called Ikigai, a concept that translates roughly to reason for being. Unlike the Western idea of success, which is often measured by status, wealth, or achievement, Ikigai teaches that true fulfillment comes from living with purpose, passion, and balance. It is not just about work or career. It is about what makes life truly worth living. The word Ikigai comes from Iki, meaning life, and Gai, meaning worth or value. It is the feeling of deep satisfaction that arises when you do something that aligns with your passions, skills, and contributions to the world. For some, it is found in a lifelong profession, while for others it may be as simple as tending a garden, caring for family, or engaging in creative expression. Unlike fleeting happiness, this philosophy is about a sustained sense of fulfillment, rooted in everyday activities. One of the best ways to understand Ikigai is through the idea that it exists at the intersection of what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. When all four align, life feels deeply meaningful. However, even if just one or two of these elements are present, a sense of purpose can still be cultivated. It is not about chasing grand ambitions, but about finding joy in what you do and how you contribute to the world. This philosophy is perhaps most visible in Okinawa, a Japanese region known for having one of the longest living populations in the world. Studies have shown that Okinawans not only live longer, but they remain active, joyful, and engaged well into old age. Many credit their longevity to their strong sense of purpose. Whether it is fishing, teaching, cooking, or maintaining lifelong friendships, they find meaning in their daily routines. Retirement, as it is commonly understood in the West, does not exist in the same way. Rather than stopping work completely, people continue to engage in activities they love, contributing to their communities for as long as they can. Unlike modern work culture, which often leads to burnout and exhaustion, Ikigai promotes a balanced approach to life. It does not require extreme dedication to a single pursuit, nor does it demand sacrificing well-being for ambition. Instead, it encourages people to cultivate purpose in a way that feels natural, sustainable, and fulfilling. Even in simple tasks, cooking a meal, caring for a pet, creating something with one's hands, there is an opportunity to experience meaning and satisfaction. This philosophy is also closely tied to mindfulness and presence. In today's world, where distractions are everywhere and people often rush from one goal to the next, Ikigai reminds us to slow down and appreciate the value of everyday moments. It is not just about future success, but about finding contentment in the present, no matter how ordinary it may seem. At its core, Ikigai is about more than just personal happiness. It is about connection. Whether it is through work, family, art, or service to others, this philosophy teaches that meaning is most deeply felt when it extends beyond the self. A life centered on Ikigai is one where one's purpose contributes to the well-being of others, creating a sense of harmony between individual fulfillment and the greater good. Although this philosophy is deeply rooted in Japanese culture, its message is universal. In a time when many feel disconnected, overworked, or unsure of their path, Ikigai offers a way forward. It asks us to look beyond external measures of success and instead focus on what truly brings joy, purpose, and a sense of contribution. It encourages us to ask important questions. Are we living in a way that aligns with our true purpose? Are we prioritizing what we love, or are we caught in distractions? Is fulfillment something we seek in the future, or is it something we can cultivate in the present? This way of life is not about waiting for meaning to appear. It is about creating it moment by moment. Whether through small acts of creativity, meaningful relationships, or simply appreciating life's simple joys, the essence of Ikigai is already within us, waiting to be discovered. By embracing this philosophy, we can learn to lead a life of balance, fulfillment, and purpose, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. Bushido, the way of the warrior. In a world that often struggles with shifting values, there was once a code that shaped warriors into symbols of strength, discipline, and honor. It was called Bushido, the way of the warrior, a philosophy that guided Japan's legendary samurai, shaping not only how they fought, but how they lived and died. More than just a set of battlefield tactics, Bushido was a moral code that demanded courage, loyalty, and unwavering integrity, teaching warriors to embrace duty over fear, justice over convenience, and honor above all else. Bushido emerged from a blend of Japanese, Confucian, Buddhist, and Shinto traditions that shaped samurai culture. The term means the way of the warrior and became central during Japan's feudal era when powerful military clans ruled. While samurai were originally warriors serving noble lords, their role evolved beyond combat. By the Edo period, Japan was at peace, and Bushido became a moral code rather than just a battlefield strategy. Samurai were expected to be skilled fighters and also wise, disciplined leaders. Although different schools interpreted it differently, Bushido consistently emphasized key virtues. A samurai was expected to act with righteousness, prioritizing justice over convenience. Their duty remained unwavering, no matter the cost. Courage was equally essential, not only in battle, but in all aspects of life. A true warrior embraced challenges despite fear, as hesitation was dishonorable. Though warriors, samurai were also expected to show compassion, balancing strength with kindness. A true warrior protected the weak and led with wisdom, not cruelty. Respect was another core value, with politeness seen as a sign of strength. Samurai upheld dignity in all interactions, treating both allies and enemies with honor. Honesty was sacred, and their word was their bond. A promise, once made, had to be fulfilled, even at great cost. Perhaps the most defining aspect of Bushido was its connection to honor. A warrior's reputation was everything, and disgrace was worse than death. Dishonor often resulted in seppuku, as a means of redemption. Above all, a samurai upheld unwavering loyalty to their master, family, and principles. Unlike many Western philosophies, Bushido had a unique view of death. Samurai accepted death at any moment, seeing it as inevitable rather than something to fear. This led to the practice of seppuku, performed when a samurai faced disgrace, lost their lord, or had no honorable path forward. Rather than live in shame, they would take their own life in a painful but dignified act. However, samurai did not seek death recklessly. Instead, they lived with the understanding that life was temporary, and honor was more important than mere survival. Many legendary samurai embodied Bushido. Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's greatest swordsman, lived a life of self-discipline, training, and strategic thinking. His Dokkodo, or the way of walking alone, outlined a philosophy of independence and self-mastery. Another famous example is the 47 Ronin, samurai who avenged their fallen lord at the cost of their own lives. Their loyalty and sacrifice remain one of the greatest examples of Bushido in action. Samurai also applied Bushido beyond the battlefield, becoming scholars, poets, and statesmen, proving that the way of the warrior was also a way of wisdom. Although the samurai era ended in the late 19th century, Bushido's principles continue to shape Japanese culture today. Modern martial arts such as kendo, judo, and karate reflect the Bushido spirit of discipline, respect, and perseverance. Japanese business culture, known for its emphasis on loyalty, teamwork, and self-discipline, also carries Bushido's influence. Even outside Japan, Bushido has inspired Western culture, appearing in movies, video games, and business philosophies that emphasize discipline, honor, and resilience. Although we no longer live in an age of swords and samurai, Bushido remains relevant. Integrity and honor help build strong relationships, while courage and resilience allow us to face challenges with confidence. Loyalty and commitment create strong communities, and respect and discipline guide us to live with purpose. While modern life differs from feudal Japan, Bushido's values still shape how we live, work, and treat others. Whether in personal growth, leadership, or even sports, the way of the warrior still has lessons to teach. Bushido is more than a samurai code. It is a philosophy of strength, discipline, and honor. It teaches us to live with courage, respect, and unwavering commitment to what we believe in. In an age where values are often forgotten, the spirit of the warrior remains timeless. Gaman. In moments of hardship, when challenges feel overwhelming and emotions run high, there is a Japanese philosophy that teaches the power of endurance, patience, and quiet strength. It is called Gaman, a concept that encourages people to persevere through difficulties with dignity, self-control, and resilience. Unlike the Western approach, which often emphasizes outward struggle or vocal resistance, Gaman is about enduring hardships internally, maintaining composure, and moving forward with quiet determination. The word gaman can be translated as to endure the seemingly unbearable with patience and dignity. It does not mean suppressing emotions or ignoring pain, but rather cultivating the strength to carry on without complaint. It is the ability to withstand adversity, not with loud defiance, but with an unshakable inner resolve. In Japanese culture, displaying too much emotion in difficult times is often seen as improper, not because emotions are unimportant, but because true strength is shown through perseverance and grace. This philosophy has its roots in Buddhist teachings, which emphasize self-discipline, mindfulness, and non-attachment. The idea is that suffering is a natural part of life, and rather than resisting it with frustration or despair, one should face it with patience and endurance. Gaman teaches that by accepting hardship without losing one's composure, a person builds true strength of character. Historically, this mindset has been deeply embedded in Japanese society. During World War II, Japanese civilians and soldiers alike practiced Gaman in the face of unimaginable suffering. After the war, when Japan was rebuilding itself from devastation, the people's ability to endure hardships without losing hope played a crucial role in the country's recovery. Even in natural disasters such as the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, international observers noted how the Japanese people responded with remarkable patience, restraint, and unity, embodying the spirit of Gaman. This philosophy is not just about national resilience. It applies to daily life as well. In the workplace, Gaman means working hard without complaining, even in tough conditions. In relationships, it means remaining patient and understanding, even when things are difficult. In personal struggles, it means enduring setbacks without letting them define you. Whether it is dealing with stress, financial difficulties, or personal loss, Gaman is about finding the inner strength to keep going, no matter how hard the situation may be. However, Gaman does not mean suffering in silence indefinitely. It is not about accepting unjust circumstances or allowing oneself to be mistreated. Instead, it is about facing difficulties with strength and discipline while working toward a better future. It teaches that endurance is not about passively accepting pain, but about developing the patience and resilience to overcome it. In modern society, where instant gratification and emotional expression are often encouraged, Gaman offers a different kind of wisdom. It reminds us that not all struggles need to be loudly voiced, and not all pain needs to be immediately solved. Some challenges require patience, some difficulties can be endured, and sometimes strength is shown not through resistance, but through quiet perseverance. This philosophy raises important questions. Are we too quick to seek comfort and avoid struggle? Do we have the patience to endure difficult moments without losing ourselves? Can we cultivate strength in silence rather than always seeking external validation? Gaman is not just about waiting for hardship to pass. It is about enduring with dignity, persevering with self-respect, and emerging stronger on the other side. It teaches that true resilience is not found in avoiding pain, but in facing it head-on with courage, patience, and an unwavering spirit. Mottainai. In a world of excess, where things are used and discarded without thought, there is a Japanese philosophy that teaches the value of everything, the importance of mindfulness, and the regret that comes with waste. It is called Mottainai, a concept that expresses both gratitude and responsibility, reminding us to appreciate what we have, use it wisely, and avoid unnecessary waste. Unlike modern consumer culture, which often prioritizes convenience over sustainability, this philosophy encourages people to treat resources with respect and see the hidden worth in everything around them. The word mottainai is an expression of displeasure toward wastefulness, whether it is food, time, energy, or even human potential. At its core, this philosophy is about recognizing that everything has value, and that throwing something away thoughtlessly is not just a loss of the object itself, but also a disregard for the effort, resources, and energy that went into creating it. This way of thinking is deeply rooted in Japanese culture and traditions. In the past, people took great care to use every part of what they had. Farmers would find ways to use every part of a harvested crop. Craftsmen would repair broken tools rather than replace them. Even today, traditional Japanese cuisine is built on the principle of using every ingredient to its fullest, ensuring that nothing is wasted. This mindfulness extends beyond physical things. It is also about valuing time, effort, and opportunities. One of the most famous modern expressions of mottainai is in kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold or silver lacquer. Rather than throwing away a damaged bowl or cup, kintsugi transforms it into something even more beautiful, honoring both its history and imperfection. This practice reflects the idea that just because something is broken or worn does not mean it is useless. It still has value, and in some ways it becomes even more meaningful when restored. Beyond objects, mottainai can be applied to time and experiences. If we spend hours mindlessly scrolling through distractions instead of learning, creating, or connecting with others, that time is wasted. If we fail to appreciate the present moment, rushing toward the future or dwelling on the past, we lose the richness of life as it happens. Mottainai reminds us that every moment is precious and every opportunity should be embraced fully. This mindset is also closely tied to sustainability and environmental responsibility. The modern world is filled with waste, fast fashion, disposable plastics, food thrown away in massive quantities. But Mottainai challenges this behavior, encouraging people to reduce, reuse, and repurpose. Nobel Peace Prize winner Wangari Maathai, a Kenyan environmental activist, adopted this Japanese concept to promote sustainability worldwide, using it as a call to action against the wastefulness that damages both people and the planet. In today's society, where convenience often leads to waste, Mottainai offers a much-needed shift in perspective. Instead of constantly seeking new things, this philosophy encourages us to take care of what we already have, to repair rather than replace, and to be mindful of our consumption. It is not just about material objects, it is about how we treat everything in life. Are we using our resources wisely? Are we valuing our time and relationships? Are we appreciating what we have instead of always wanting more? This philosophy does not mean that we should never buy or discard anything, but rather that we should do so with awareness and gratitude. It is a reminder that everything we use, whether it is food, energy, or even the earth itself, comes from somewhere and involves effort. It challenges us to pause before we waste, to recognize the hidden value in what we often overlook, and act with responsibility rather than carelessness. In a time when the world is facing environmental challenges, Mottainai is more relevant than ever. It asks us to live not just for convenience, but for sustainability. It is a philosophy that respects both the past and the future, reminding us that the choices we make today affect generations to come. It raises an important question. Are we appreciating what we have, or are we taking it for granted? Are we using our time and talents wisely, or are they going to waste? And how can we live in a way that shows respect for both the resources we consume and the world we leave behind? Mottainai is not just about avoiding waste. It is about living with gratitude, awareness, and responsibility. By embracing this philosophy, we can learn to cherish what we have, make the most of every moment, and contribute to a world that values sustainability over excess. Zen Buddhism, the path of no mind. Zen Buddhism is not just a religion, it is a way of experiencing life directly, beyond words, beyond logic, and beyond thought itself. Rooted in simplicity, discipline, and self-awareness, Zen teaches that enlightenment is not found in scriptures or rituals, but in the present moment. Zen traces its roots back to India, where Buddhism first emerged. However, its defining characteristics took shape in China through the Chan Buddhist tradition before spreading to Japan, where it became known as Zen. Unlike other schools of Buddhism that emphasize scriptures and philosophical debate, Zen focuses on direct experience. Meditation, known as Zazen, is at the heart of Zen practice. Instead of praying to deities or analyzing complex doctrines, Zen practitioners sit in stillness, observing their thoughts without attachment. The goal is to cultivate mushin, or no mind, a state of clarity, spontaneity, and deep awareness where the mind is not caught in distraction or overthinking. A fundamental aspect of Zen is its emphasis on sudden enlightenment, or satori. Unlike other forms of Buddhism that describe enlightenment as a gradual process over many lifetimes, Zen holds that awakening can happen in an instant. This is why Zen masters often use unexpected methods to shake students out of their habitual thinking, such as paradoxical riddles known as koans. A famous example is, what is the sound of one hand clapping? These questions are not meant to be answered logically, but to push the mind beyond rational thought. The goal is not to understand, but to experience a direct insight into reality. Zen also emphasizes simplicity in daily life. Practitioners are encouraged to engage fully in ordinary tasks, whether sweeping the floor, drinking tea, or practicing martial arts, with complete presence and mindfulness. The Zen saying, chop wood, carry water, reminds us that enlightenment is not separate from daily life. It is found in the most mundane moments. This approach removes the division between sacred and ordinary, teaching that each moment is an opportunity for awakening. One of Zen's most profound teachings is the idea of emptiness, or sunyata. This does not mean nothingness, but rather that all things are interconnected and ever-changing, The self is not a fixed identity but a fluid, impermanent process. By realizing this, Zen practitioners let go of attachment and expectations, learning to flow with life as it unfolds. The less we resist reality, the more we find peace. Historically, Zen has had a profound influence on Japanese culture. The samurai adopted Zen as part of their training, using meditation to cultivate a calm and focused mind in battle. Zen also shaped traditional arts like calligraphy, tea ceremonies, and rock gardens, emphasizing simplicity and mindfulness. Even in modern times, Zen principles influence psychology, minimalism, and self-improvement, offering a path to a less stressful, more centered way of living. Zen's greatest lesson is that truth cannot be explained, it must be experienced. Words and concepts are merely signposts pointing toward reality, but they are not reality itself. This is why Zen masters often refuse to give direct answers, instead leading students to discover insights on their own. The famous Zen proverb states, "When the student is ready, the master appears." Awakening is not about knowledge, but about seeing life as it truly is. Although Zen Buddhism originated centuries ago, its teachings remain deeply relevant today. In an age of distractions and overthinking, Zen reminds us to return to the present, to silence the noise of the mind, and to engage fully with life. Whether through meditation, mindful living, or embracing simplicity, the way of Zen offers a timeless path to clarity and peace. Zen is not something you believe in, it is something you do. It is not about reaching a destination, but about being fully awake at this very moment. Charvaka, the philosophy of skepticism and pleasure. What if everything you've been told about spirituality, karma, and the afterlife was an illusion? What if the only truth was what you could experience with your own senses, and the only purpose of life was to seek pleasure? This is the radical philosophy of Charvaka, also known as Lokayata, an ancient Indian school of thought that rejected religious dogma, questioned blind faith, and embraced a materialistic, hedonistic approach to life. Charvaka stands apart from almost every other philosophical tradition in India. While Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism focus on liberation, karma, and reincarnation, Charvaka outright rejects these ideas. It is a school of pure materialism, teaching that reality is only what can be directly observed, and anything beyond that, whether gods, souls, or an afterlife, is mere speculation. According to Charvaka, there is no divine law governing the universe, no cosmic justice system rewarding good deeds or punishing bad ones. Life is not a moral test, but an opportunity to experience joy before returning to nothingness. The roots of Charvaka can be traced back to ancient texts, particularly in the Brihaspati Sutra, which was believed to have been written around 600 BCE. Though much of Charvaka's literature has been lost, its influence is recorded in the writings of its opponents, Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain scholars who viewed it as dangerous, even heretical. Unlike other schools of thought that emphasized faith or metaphysical speculation, Charvaka grounded its philosophy in empiricism, the belief that only what can be directly perceived is real. It dismissed sacred scriptures, religious rituals, and even logical inference, arguing that if something cannot be seen, touched, or directly experienced, it should not be accepted as truth. This skepticism extended to the concept of karma and the afterlife. Charvaka philosophers questioned why anyone should believe in rebirth when no one had ever returned from death to confirm it. They argued that religious authorities promoted these ideas not because they were true, but because they helped maintain social order and priestly power. Instead of living in fear of consequences in a future life, Charvaka taught that people should focus on enjoying this life, because it is the only one we know we have. One of the most well-known Charvaka principles is, pleasure is the only good. If the goal of human existence is to seek happiness and avoid suffering, then the pursuit of pleasure is the most rational way to live. Unlike other Indian philosophies that promoted self-denial, asceticism, and renunciation, Charvaka encouraged people to embrace wealth, physical enjoyment, and sensory fulfillment. It famously mocked religious austerity, questioning why anyone would willingly deprive themselves in the name of an unseen afterlife. However, Charvaka was not simply about reckless indulgence. It also encouraged the use of reason, critical thinking, and skepticism to navigate life intelligently. While pleasure was the goal, one had to pursue it wisely, avoiding actions that led to unnecessary suffering. Charvaka did not advocate harming others or acting selfishly without thought. It simply rejected the idea that morality needed divine justification. Ethics, according to Charvaka, should be based on human needs and happiness, not religious commandments. Despite its logical foundation, Charvaka faced immense opposition. Most Indian philosophies, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, were based on ideas of spiritual progress, karma, and moral responsibility. Charvaka's rejection of these beliefs made it a threat to religious institutions and ruling elites. Over time, its texts were lost, and its teachings survived mainly through criticisms written by its opponents. Even so, its ideas continued to challenge religious orthodoxy and inspired later secular and rationalist movements. In many ways, Charvaka was far ahead of its time. Long before Western philosophers like Epicurus and Nietzsche questioned religious dogma, Charvaka had already done so in ancient India. Its ideas echo in modern secularism, humanism, and scientific skepticism. Today, in a world filled with misinformation, blind faith, and ideological dogma, the Charvaka way of thinking serves as a reminder that belief should always be tested against reason, and life should be lived fully, without fear of imaginary consequences. Charvaka may not have survived as a mainstream philosophy, but its message is timeless. Question everything. Trust what you see, not what you are told. And most importantly, embrace the joy of living while you still can. Advaita Vedanta, the philosophy of non-duality. What if everything you experience, the world around you, your thoughts, your identity, is not separate from the ultimate reality, but one with it? What if the self you believe yourself to be is nothing more than an illusion? This is the core teaching of Advaita Vedanta, a profound and ancient Indian philosophy that challenges the very nature of existence, perception, and selfhood. Advaita Vedanta, which means the path of non-duality, is one of the most influential schools of Hindu thought. Its origins trace back to the Upanishads, the philosophical texts of ancient India that explore the nature of consciousness and ultimate reality. However, it was the philosopher Adi Shankaracharya in the 8th century who systematized and spread its teachings. Unlike many religious traditions that emphasize a division between the individual and the divine, Advaita Vedanta boldly declares that there is no separation. Everything, including you, is already part of the one, infinite existence known as Brahman. According to Advaita Vedanta, the fundamental problem of human existence is ignorance, specifically the illusion that we are separate beings with individual identities. This illusion, known as Maya, creates a false sense of duality, self and other, subject and object, life and death. But in reality, all these distinctions are mere appearances. The core teaching of Advaita Vedanta is that your true self, or Atman, is not separate from Brahman, the ultimate reality. Just as a wave is not separate from the ocean, so too is the self not separate from the infinite existence that pervades everything. To realize this truth is moksha, or liberation, the ultimate goal of life. This realization does not come from blind faith, ritual worship, or intellectual study alone. It comes from direct experience and deep self-inquiry. One of the most well-known methods taught in Advaita Vedanta is neti, which means not this, not this. By systematically negating everything that is not the true self, the body, thoughts, emotions, and external identities, one arrives at what remains, pure, unchanging awareness. This awareness is Brahman itself. Another key concept in Advaita Vedanta is the rope and the snake analogy. Imagine walking in dim light and mistaking a rope for a snake. You react with fear, believing the snake to be real. But when you look closer and see that it is only a rope, the illusion disappears instantly. According to Advaita, the world we experience is like this illusion. We perceive ourselves as separate beings, caught up in the dramas of life, but when we awaken to the truth, we realize that all is one and the illusion of separateness disappears. This philosophy does not deny the reality of the world, but redefines what real means. Just as a dream seems real while you are in it, but disappears upon waking, the world appears separate until one attains knowledge of non-duality. Once realized, the individual no longer clings to temporary identities, fears, or desires because they understand their true nature as infinite and unchanging. Advaita Vedanta has influenced countless spiritual seekers, philosophers, and mystics across history. It has shaped Hinduism, Buddhism, and even modern psychology, offering insights into the nature of consciousness. Some of its ideas echo in the works of Western thinkers like Schopenhauer, Eckhart Tolle, and Alan Watts, who have drawn from its wisdom to explore the illusion of self and the nature of reality. In today's world, Advaita Vedanta offers something incredibly valuable: freedom from suffering. Much of our anxiety and pain come from attachment to identity, material success, or the fear of losing what we love. But if all is one, then loss is an illusion, and suffering is merely a misunderstanding of reality. By seeing beyond the illusion of separateness, we can cultivate peace, acceptance, and an unshakable inner stillness. The journey to realizing non-duality is not about acquiring something new, but about seeing clearly what has always been. The self you are searching for is already here, already free. You are not the wave, you are the ocean. You are not a fragment of existence, you are existence itself. Shintoism, the spirit of Japan. Imagine a world where nature is alive, where every mountain, river, and tree holds a sacred presence. A world where the unseen forces of existence shape human life, not as distant gods, but as spirits intertwined with everything around us. This is the world of Shintoism, the indigenous spiritual tradition of Japan, a belief system that does not seek to explain the universe, but instead celebrates the mystery and sacredness of life itself. Shinto, meaning the way of the kami, is unique among major spiritual traditions. It has no official founder, no sacred scriptures, and no strict dogma. Instead, it is a way of life, a deep reverence for the forces of nature, ancestry, and the unseen connections that bind all things together. Kami, the central beings in Shinto belief, are often translated as spirits or gods, but they are much more than that. Kami can be the deities of nature, such as the sun goddess Amaterasu, but they can also be found in waterfalls, ancient trees, or even in great leaders and ancestors who left a lasting impact on the world. At the heart of Shintoism is the understanding that the divine is not separate from the world. It is woven into the fabric of existence. Unlike many religions that focus on an afterlife or salvation, Shinto is primarily concerned with the here and now, with maintaining harmony between humanity, nature, and the spiritual realm. The natural world is not something to be conquered or dominated, but something to be respected and honored. This is why Shinto shrines are often found in forests, on mountain peaks, or near sacred bodies of water, blending seamlessly with the environment rather than imposing upon it. A key practice in Shintoism is purification. Because life is constantly in motion and people are exposed to both good and bad influences, spiritual purity is essential. Rituals involving water, salt, and fire are performed to cleanse both body and spirit. Before entering a Shinto shrine, visitors wash their hands and mouths at a purification fountain, symbolizing the removal of worldly impurities. Shinto also recognizes the importance of gratitude and offerings, with people presenting food, sake, or symbolic gifts to the kami as a gesture of respect. One of the most well-known aspects of Shinto is its influence on Japanese culture and national identity. The idea that Japan itself is a sacred land, blessed by the kami, has shaped its history and traditions for centuries. The connection between Shinto and Japan's imperial family is particularly strong, as they are believed to be descendants of the sun goddess Amaterasu. While this belief played a major role in shaping Japan's national identity, Shinto has always been more than just a state religion. It is a deeply personal and communal tradition, influencing everything from seasonal festivals to the way people interact with nature in daily life. Unlike many belief systems, Shinto does not focus on moral absolutes or rigid commandments. Instead, it emphasizes harmony, sincerity, and living in alignment with the natural world. There is no single path to enlightenment, no ultimate truth to be discovered, only the ongoing experience of being part of the ever-changing flow of life. This adaptability has allowed Shinto to coexist peacefully with Buddhism, which arrived in Japan over 1,000 years ago. Rather than competing, the two traditions intertwined, with many Japanese people practicing both, going to Shinto shrines for blessings in this life and turning to Buddhist teachings for matters of death and the afterlife. In modern times, Shinto continues to shape Japanese culture, from the beauty of traditional architecture to the profound respect for nature seen in everything, from Zen gardens to cherry blossom festivals. The principles of Shinto can even be found in the philosophy of Japanese craftsmanship, where deep attention to detail and reverence for materials reflect an awareness of the sacred in the ordinary. But perhaps the greatest lesson of Shinto is its invitation to see the world with fresh eyes, to recognize the sacredness in everyday life, to respect the invisible forces that sustain us, and to find harmony with the world around us. Whether or not one believes in kami, the essence of Shinto speaks to something universal, a deep intuitive connection to the beauty and mystery of existence. Taoism, the art of flowing with life. Imagine a way of life where nothing feels forced, where you move effortlessly through challenges, and where peace comes not from control, but from letting go. This is the essence of Taoism. Unlike many philosophies that seek to explain or dominate the world, Taoism teaches us to step back, observe, and align ourselves with the natural flow of existence. It is not about rules or doctrines. It is about a way of being, a way of seeing, and most importantly, a way of living. The origins of Taoism are deeply rooted in ancient China, with its foundational text, the Tao Te Ching, attributed to the sage Lao Tzu over 2,500 years ago. Unlike structured religious teachings, the Tao Te Ching is a collection of poetic verses filled with paradoxes, metaphors, and quiet wisdom. Another major figure in Taoist thought, Zhuangzi, further developed these ideas through vivid parables, often using humor to illustrate deep truths. These two thinkers laid the foundation for a philosophy that embraces mystery, spontaneity, and the understanding that life is beyond rigid definitions. At the heart of Taoism is the concept of Tao, often translated as the way. The Tao is the underlying force of the universe, the natural order that flows through everything. It is not something that can be seen, measured, or fully grasped by the human mind. Instead, it is something we align with by observing nature, trusting in change, and surrendering to the ebb and flow of existence. One of the most profound Taoist principles is Wu Wei, which is often misunderstood as passivity or inaction. In reality, Wu Wei means effortless action. It is the art of doing things in the most natural way possible. Think of a skilled musician who plays without thinking, or an athlete who moves without hesitation. They are not forcing their actions, they are flowing with them. In daily life, Wu Wei teaches us to let go of unnecessary struggle, to stop swimming against the current, and to move in harmony with the rhythms of life. Taoism also offers a unique perspective on opposites, represented by the famous yin-yang symbol. While many philosophies see opposites as forces in conflict, light versus dark, strength versus weakness, activity versus stillness, Taoism sees them as complementary. Just as day turns into night and effort must be balanced with rest, life exists in cycles. By understanding this, we stop resisting one side in favor of the other. A truly wise person does not cling to success or despair in failure, but embraces both as part of life's continuous unfolding. Nature is one of Taoism's greatest teachers. A tree does not struggle to grow, it simply grows. A river does not resist obstacles, it moves around them. A cloud does not force its shape, it shifts effortlessly. The more we observe the natural world, the more we see that wisdom is not about control, but about harmony. Taoism teaches us that the harder we try to grasp life, the more it slips through our fingers. The secret is to allow rather than to force. This philosophy extends beyond the individual and has deeply influenced Chinese culture. Taoist principles shape the development of Qigong, Tai Chi, and traditional Chinese medicine, all of which focus on balance and the flow of energy. Even martial arts, which seem like acts of force, are rooted in yielding, adapting, and using an opponent's energy rather than resisting it. Taoism has also influenced art, poetry, and architecture, all of which reflect simplicity and a deep respect for nature. In today's fast-paced world, Taoism offers a refreshing alternative. We are constantly told to strive harder, achieve more, and control every aspect of our lives. Yet Taoism suggests that true peace comes when we stop grasping and instead allow things to unfold naturally. This does not mean giving up or avoiding responsibility, but rather learning when to act and when to step back, when to push forward and when to let things be. Taoism is not about seeking a destination, it is about moving with the journey itself. It teaches us that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. Instead of resisting the unpredictable nature of existence, we can learn to flow with it. After all, the river does not fight the rocks in its path. It finds a way around them, and in doing so, it carves a new path of its own. Taoist Immortality. The pursuit of immortality has fascinated humanity for centuries, but for Taoists, it was never just about living forever. It was about attaining a higher state of existence, one in harmony with the Tao, the fundamental flow of the universe. Unlike other traditions that sought enlightenment through renunciation or philosophy alone, Taoist immortality practices combined meditation, alchemy, energy cultivation, and even physical techniques to extend life and transcend the limits of ordinary existence. The roots of Taoist immortality go back to ancient China, where sages and hermits retreated to mountains in search of the secret to eternal life. These seekers were known as Xian, or immortals, and were believed to have transcended human limitations through deep wisdom, breath control, and mastery of natural forces. Some accounts describe them as figures who lived for centuries, capable of feats like walking on water, levitating, or vanishing into mist. But these were not just myths. Behind these legends lay a complex system of inner transformation that aimed to refine the body, mind, and spirit. One of the central ideas in Taoist immortality is that the human body is not separate from nature, but a microcosm of the universe itself. Just as rivers flow and mountains stand firm, the body has its own natural rhythms of energy, known as qi. This life force is believed to determine health, vitality, and even longevity. Through special practices, Taoists sought to nourish and refine qi, preventing decay and reversing the aging process. These methods included breath control, energy circulation, and internal alchemy, a system of meditation and visualization aimed at transforming the body's energies. Unlike Western alchemy, which focused on turning metals into gold, Taoist alchemy was about turning the body into an immortal vessel, refining qi into pure spiritual essence. Another key element was diet and herbal medicine. Some Taoists followed strict regimens, avoiding grains and processed foods, believing that certain substances caused the body to age more rapidly. Instead, they sought elixirs, sacred plants, and minerals that were believed to enhance longevity, sharpen the mind, and connect them to the forces of nature. Some of the more extreme practitioners experimented with mercury and cinnabar, believing these substances could transform the body, though history has shown that these dangerous compounds often had the opposite effect. However, Taoist immortality was never just about extending physical life. Many Taoist masters taught that true immortality was about aligning oneself with the Tao, the eternal flowing force that governs the universe. To merge with the Tao was to become timeless, beyond the cycle of life and death. Some believed this meant ascending to a higher spiritual plane, while others saw it as dissolving the self into the infinite rhythm of nature. Throughout history, emperors and scholars alike sought out Taoist masters, hoping to uncover the secret to immortality. Many imperial courts sponsored alchemists, monks, and hermits, hoping to gain wisdom, or perhaps eternal rule. While no clear evidence of physical immortality exists, the legacy of Taoist practices continues to influence modern wellness movements, traditional Chinese medicine, and meditation techniques. In today's world, where people chase youth and longevity through science and technology, Taoist immortality offers a different perspective. Instead of fearing aging, it teaches that life can be extended through balance, harmony, and understanding of natural energies. Instead of seeing death as an end, it suggests that true immortality is not about defying time, but about living in alignment with something greater than oneself. This raises an important question. Is immortality something that can be achieved physically, or is it about transcending the idea of self altogether? Could the true key to eternal life lie not in resisting nature, but in embracing it completely? Taoist immortality suggests that those who flow with the Tao never truly die. They become part of the great, unbroken cycle of existence itself. Legalism, the philosophy of absolute order. What if the only way to create a strong and stable society was through strict laws and total control? What if human nature was not naturally good, but selfish and unpredictable, requiring harsh rules to keep order? This is the core idea of legalism, one of the most powerful and controversial philosophies in ancient China. Legalism was not concerned with morality, spirituality, or philosophy in the way that Confucianism or Taoism were. Instead, it focused entirely on law, discipline, and authority. It taught that people are naturally selfish and that society can only function when individuals are forced to obey strict rules. Unlike Confucianism, which emphasized virtue and personal ethics, legalism believed that strict laws and severe punishments were the only way to control human behavior. The roots of legalism go back over 2,000 years to the Warring States period, a time when China was divided into rival kingdoms, constantly fighting for power. During this period of chaos, scholars like Shang Yang, Han Feizi, and Li Si developed legalism as a system for ruling with absolute authority. They believed that rulers should not try to make people good, but instead focus on making disobedience impossible. One of legalism's key ideas was that laws should apply equally to everyone, no matter their status. A peasant and a noble should be punished the same way for breaking the law. However, legalism also believed in rewarding loyalty and punishing disobedience, not just in the government, but in everyday life. If a citizen obeyed the laws, they would be rewarded. But if they broke them, even in small ways, they would face harsh consequences. Another important concept in legalism was strengthening the state at all costs. Legalists believed that the government should have total power and that individual rights were not important compared to the stability of the nation. In a legalist system, loyalty to the state was the highest duty, even above family or personal relationships. If a person committed a crime, their family or neighbors could be punished as well, encouraging people to report any wrongdoing. The most famous ruler to apply legalist ideas was Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. He used legalism to unify China in 221 BCE, creating a powerful empire with a strong central government. Under his rule, laws were strictly enforced, punishments were severe, and the government controlled nearly every part of life. While this created stability and ended centuries of warfare, it also led to extreme brutality, including harsh labor, book burnings, and the suppression of opposing ideas. Despite its effectiveness in creating order, legalism was deeply unpopular. Its rigid system of control made life difficult, and after Qin Shi Huang's death, the Han dynasty moved away from legalism, blending it with Confucian values of morality and kindness. However, many legalist ideas remained in Chinese government, shaping policies for centuries. While ancient legalism faded as a dominant philosophy, its influence never disappeared. In the 20th century, many aspects of legalist thought reappeared in China's political system, especially during periods of strong central control. The idea that strict laws, loyalty to the state, and harsh punishments are necessary for stability has been echoed in various government policies. One of the most significant examples is the period of Mao Zedong's rule. The Chinese Communist Party, under Mao's leadership, implemented strict policies that emphasized obedience, social control, and the suppression of opposition. Programs like the Cultural Revolution involved widespread punishments for those who were seen as disloyal to the state, mirroring legalist ideas that prioritized the survival of the nation over individual rights. The Great Leap Forward, a policy designed to rapidly modernize China, also showed traces of legalist thinking, placing the success of the state above the well-being of individuals, often with devastating consequences. Even in modern China, traces of legalism remain. While Confucian values have been revived in some aspects of Chinese society, the government still follows legalist principles when it comes to strict laws, centralized power, and social control. The use of surveillance, censorship, and tight restrictions on political dissent reflects the legalist belief that stability requires strong enforcement. At the same time, rewards for economic success and political loyalty show legalism's influence in how the state encourages obedience and discipline. Legalist ideas are also present in China's social credit system, where citizens are ranked based on their behavior. Those who follow the rules, paying debts, following government policies, and avoiding criticism of the state, are rewarded with benefits, while those who break the rules can face travel bans, job restrictions, or other penalties. This is very similar to legalist policies from ancient China, which sought to control society through a combination of strict punishment and selective rewards. However, legalism is not unique to China. Many modern governments, both democratic and authoritarian, use legalist principles when enforcing strict laws, limiting personal freedoms in the name of security, or increasing state power in times of crisis. This raises an important question: is strict order necessary for a stable society, or does it create more problems than it solves? Legalism teaches that people are naturally selfish and that strong laws are needed to keep order. But history has shown that excessive control can lead to rebellion, suffering, and oppression. The challenge for any government is finding the balance between discipline and freedom, control and trust, stability and human rights. Confucianism, the philosophy of order and harmony. What makes a strong society? Is it wealth? Is it power? Or is it something deeper, a sense of duty, respect, and moral integrity? Over 2,000 years ago, one man believed that the key to a stable and prosperous world was not force or control, but ethical leadership, family values, and personal virtue. His name was Confucius, and his teachings became the foundation of Confucianism, one of the most influential philosophies in history. Confucianism is not a religion in the traditional sense. It does not focus on gods, the afterlife, or supernatural beliefs. Instead, it is a philosophy of life, concerned with how people should behave, how society should be structured, and how rulers should govern wisely. At its core, Confucianism teaches that human relationships, not laws or punishments, are what hold civilization together. One of the key ideas in Confucianism is Ren, often translated as humaneness or compassion. Confucius believed that the best societies are built on kindness, respect, and genuine concern for others. A good person, according to Confucian thought, does not act selfishly, but considers how their actions affect the people around them. This principle applies to all relationships, from family life to politics. Another fundamental concept is Li, meaning ritual, or proper conduct. Confucianism teaches that order in society comes from tradition, etiquette, and respect for customs. Whether it is how one speaks, how one greets elders, or how one behaves in public, Li ensures harmony by reinforcing a sense of duty and discipline. In Confucianism, following proper behavior is not just about personal morality, it is about maintaining the balance of society itself. Perhaps the most well-known aspect of Confucianism is its emphasis on filial piety, or respect for parents and ancestors. Confucius saw the family as the foundation of all human relationships. If children honor their parents, if families maintain loyalty and care, then those values will spread throughout society. In this way, the home becomes a training ground for ethical leadership, teaching people how to act with respect and duty in all aspects of life. Confucianism also teaches that rulers should act as moral examples rather than relying on strict laws or punishment. This idea is called the mandate of heaven, which suggests that rulers have a moral responsibility to govern wisely and justly. If a ruler becomes corrupt or neglects their people, they lose the right to rule and another leader must take their place. This idea shaped Chinese political thought for centuries, influencing how emperors were judged and how governments operated. Unlike legalism, which believed that people needed strict control and harsh punishments, Confucianism believed that a well-ordered society came from education, ethics, and mutual respect. Instead of forcing obedience through fear, Confucius taught that people should be inspired by the virtue of their leaders. A good ruler does not need to command, they lead by example. Confucianism became the dominant philosophy of China for over 2,000 years, influencing everything from education to government policies. Scholars who studied Confucian texts were given high-ranking positions in government, and its principles shaped the daily lives of millions. Even after dynasties rose and fell, Confucian values remained at the heart of Chinese culture. In modern times, Confucianism continues to shape Chinese, Korean, and Japanese societies, where respect for elders, education, and strong family values remain important. Many aspects of Confucian thought, such as the idea that leaders should act with integrity, or that strong families create a strong nation, are still relevant today. However, Confucianism has also faced criticism. Some argue that its emphasis on hierarchy and obedience can be too restrictive, limiting personal freedom and reinforcing rigid social structures. Others see its teachings as outdated in a rapidly changing world. Still, Confucianism offers timeless wisdom. A stable society is built on strong relationships, ethical leadership, and a shared sense of duty. It asks us to reflect on our role in the world. Are we acting with kindness, respect, and integrity? Are we creating harmony in our families, workplaces, and communities? Neo-Confucianism, the revival of tradition with a new vision. What happens when old ideas are no longer enough to explain the world? Do we abandon them, or do we transform them into something greater? This is the story of Neo-Confucianism, a movement that redefined traditional Confucian thought by blending it with new ideas, shaping Chinese society for centuries. Neo-Confucianism emerged in China during the Song dynasty as a response to the growing influence of Buddhism and Taoism. For centuries, Confucianism had been the dominant philosophy in China, emphasizing ethics, social harmony, and proper behavior. But as Buddhism spread across China, offering deep spiritual teachings on meditation, the nature of reality, and personal enlightenment, many people began to turn away from Confucian ideas. Neo-Confucian thinkers saw this shift and realized that Confucianism had to evolve, not by rejecting Buddhism and Taoism, but by absorbing their best ideas while staying true to Confucian values. At its core, Neo-Confucianism sought to answer two big questions. What is the nature of reality, and how can people become truly virtuous? Earlier, Confucianism focused mostly on ethics and social harmony, but Neo-Confucianism went further, exploring the deeper structure of the universe and the inner nature of human beings. One of its most famous thinkers, Zhu Xi, developed a system that combined Confucian morals with metaphysical ideas inspired by Buddhism. He introduced the concept of Li, meaning principle or universal order. According to Zhu Xi, Li is the underlying pattern of everything in existence, like the blueprint that governs all things. Everything in the universe, from the stars to human nature, follows Li. But to understand this pattern, people must cultivate wisdom and self-discipline. Zhu Xi also emphasized the concept of Qi, meaning vital energy or material force. While Li represents the abstract order of the universe, Qi is what makes things physically exist. Everything is made of Qi, but its quality depends on how refined or impure it is. A wise and virtuous person has clear and balanced Qi, while a person who is greedy or ignorant has clouded and chaotic Qi. Through study, reflection, and discipline, people can purify their Qi and bring themselves into harmony with Li. Another important figure in Neo-Confucianism was Wang Yangming, who challenged Zhu Xi's ideas. While Zhu Xi believed that people must study and observe the world carefully to understand the truth, Wang Yangming argued that truth is already within us. He taught that people have an innate moral sense, and rather than relying on external learning, they should look inward. This idea, sometimes called the unity of knowledge and action, suggests that knowing what is right is meaningless unless a person actually lives by those principles. Neo-Confucianism also introduced a new focus on self-cultivation and inner transformation. Unlike early Confucianism, which was mostly concerned with social duties like respecting elders and following rituals, Neo-Confucianism emphasized personal enlightenment. It encouraged people to reflect deeply on their thoughts and emotions, much like Buddhist meditation, to achieve moral and spiritual clarity. For centuries, Neo-Confucianism became the foundation of Chinese government, education, and philosophy. It was taught in schools, shaped the civil service exams, and influenced leaders across China, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. It provided a rational and structured way of thinking that helped maintain order in society, while also offering a deeper spiritual and philosophical framework for individuals seeking wisdom. However, Neo-Confucianism also had its critics. Some saw it as too rigid, limiting new ideas and reinforcing strict social hierarchies. Others argued that its emphasis on self-discipline and moral perfection placed too much pressure on individuals, making it difficult for people to live freely. In the modern world, where personal expression and individual rights are highly valued, some aspects of Neo-Confucianism may seem outdated, yet many of its teachings remain relevant today. The idea that we should cultivate wisdom, align ourselves with the natural order, and strive for self-improvement continues to inspire people seeking personal growth. The debate between external learning and inner knowledge, whether truth comes from books or from within, is still an important question in education and philosophy today. Neo-Confucianism was more than just a revival of Confucianism. It was a bold transformation that blended ethics, metaphysics, and self-awareness into a powerful philosophy. It reminds us that tradition is not something to be blindly followed or rejected, but something that can evolve and grow as we search for meaning in an ever-changing world. Mohism, the philosophy of universal love and practical living. What if society's greatest problems could be solved not through power, wealth, or competition, but through universal love and fairness? What if war, greed, and corruption were the result of people caring only for themselves rather than for the good of all? These are the core ideas of Mohism, an ancient Chinese philosophy that once rivaled Confucianism and legalism in shaping Chinese thought. Mohism was founded in the 5th century BCE by Mozi, a philosopher who challenged the rigid traditions of his time. Unlike Confucianism, which emphasized family loyalty and social hierarchy, Mohism promoted equal care for all people, regardless of status or relationship. Unlike legalism, which believed in ruling through strict laws and harsh punishments, Mohism argued that rulers should act with kindness and practical wisdom. And unlike Taoism, which encouraged people to withdraw from politics, Mohism believed that governments should work actively to improve people's lives. At the heart of Mohism is the principle of universal love. Mozi taught that instead of favoring their own families or nations, people should extend their concern to everyone. He argued that most of society's problems, wars, crime, and inequality, came from partiality or favoring some people while neglecting others. If kings treated all people as their own family, there would be no war. If the rich cared for the poor, there would be no suffering. And if people helped each other selflessly, society would be peaceful and prosperous. This idea of universal love was radical in Mozi's time. Confucianism taught that respect and duty should be strongest within the family, with different levels of responsibility toward others. Mohism, however, saw this as flawed. If a ruler cared only for his own family and not for the common people, injustice would spread. Mozi argued that a just government should treat all citizens equally, without favoritism. Another major teaching of Mohism is opposition to war and aggression. At a time when kingdoms were constantly fighting for power, Mozi saw war as one of the greatest evils. He criticized rulers who expanded their territories through violence, arguing that wars only brought suffering to innocent people. Instead, he believed in defensive warfare, protecting one's land but never attacking others for conquest. He even trained groups of Mohist followers to help weaker states defend themselves from invaders, proving that his philosophy was not just words, but action. Mohism also emphasized meritocracy, the idea that rulers and officials should be chosen based on their ability and character, rather than their family background. Mozi believed that a leader should not be obeyed simply because of their noble birth, but because they act in the best interest of the people. A good ruler should be wise, fair, and responsible, and if they fail to govern properly, they should be removed. Another key aspect of Mohism is its focus on simplicity and practicality. Mozi believed that resources should be used efficiently, and that extravagant rituals and luxury were a waste. He criticized Confucian society for spending time and money on elaborate ceremonies, believing that effort should instead be directed toward helping the poor and solving real-world problems. This made Mohism an early advocate for a kind of practical governance, where policies were judged based on their effectiveness in improving people's lives. Despite its influence, Mohism eventually declined. During the Han Dynasty, Confucianism became the dominant philosophy, and many Mohist ideas were lost. However, some of its principles, such as meritocracy, equality, and opposition to unnecessary war, continued to influence Chinese thought and governance. In modern times, Mohism offers a powerful message. In a world still divided by conflict, social inequality, and favoritism, Mozi's ideas of universal love and fairness remain relevant. His teachings challenge us to ask, what if we treated all people, not just those close to us, with the same kindness and respect? What if governments truly worked for the well-being of all, rather than a select few? These are questions that continue to shape discussions on ethics, leadership, and justice today. Madhyamaka, the philosophy of the middle way and emptiness. What if everything you believe to be real, your identity, the world around you, even time itself, was nothing more than a mental construct? What if the ultimate truth was not found in extreme views, but in seeing that all things lack an independent essence? This is the core teaching of Madhyamaka, one of the most profound and mind-shattering philosophies in Buddhism. Madhyamaka, which means the middle way, was founded by the Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna in the 2nd century CE. It is one of the most influential schools of Mahayana Buddhism, and its ideas have shaped Buddhist thought for centuries. At its heart, Madhyamaka challenges our most basic assumptions about reality, arguing that all things are empty of inherent existence, a concept known as shunyata, or emptiness. But what does this mean? To understand emptiness, we first need to look at how we perceive reality. Normally, we think of things, objects, people, even ourselves, as having a solid, independent identity. A tree is a tree, a person is a person, and these things exist on their own, right? Madhyamaka says no. Nagarjuna argued that everything we experience exists only in relation to other things. Nothing has a fixed, independent nature of its own. Take a chair, for example. What makes it a chair? Is it the wood, the shape, the function? If you remove the legs, is it still a chair? What if you call it something else? The idea of chair only exists because our minds label and define it that way. In reality, it is just a collection of parts, none of which by themselves are truly a chair. This applies not just to objects, but to everything, even the self. We tend to think of ourselves as having a solid identity, but Madhyamaka teaches that the self is just a collection of experiences, thoughts, and sensations that are constantly changing. There is no single, permanent you beneath it all. This doesn't mean that things don't exist. It means they do not exist in the way we think they do. Madhyamaka is called the middle way because it avoids two extreme views. The first is eternalism, the belief that things have a fixed, unchanging essence. The second is nihilism, the belief that nothing exists at all. Nagarjuna rejected both, arguing that things exist, but only in a dependent and changing way. Imagine a wave in the ocean. Does it exist? Yes, but only because of the water, the wind, and the movement of energy. The wave is not separate from the ocean, and it has no fixed form. It rises and falls, appearing and disappearing. All things in life are like this, constantly shifting, interconnected, and empty of a fixed identity. A key concept in Madhyamaka is dependent origination, the idea that everything arises because of causes and conditions. Nothing comes into existence by itself. A tree grows because of sunlight, soil, and rain. A person's thoughts come from their past experiences, emotions, and environment. Nothing has an independent, unchanging self. This is why Madhyamaka teaches emptiness is not nothingness. Emptiness simply means that things do not exist independently. Instead, they are part of an endless web of causes and conditions. When we cling to things as if they were solid and unchanging, we create suffering. But when we understand emptiness, we free ourselves from attachment and fear. Madhyamaka's teachings deeply influenced Zen, Tibetan Buddhism, and later Buddhist philosophy. In Zen, the idea of seeing through illusions and directly experiencing reality comes from Madhyamaka thought. In Tibetan Buddhism, Madhyamaka became the foundation of many schools of thought, shaping how enlightenment is understood. Even outside of Buddhism, Madhyamaka's insights into language, perception, and reality have influenced philosophy and psychology. In the modern world, people struggle with attachment, identity, and the search for meaning. We cling to labels, beliefs, and possessions, thinking they define us. But Madhyamaka challenges us to ask, what are we holding on to? Are our fears and desires based on illusions? Understanding emptiness does not mean rejecting life. It means seeing it clearly. It means realizing that we are not separate from the world, but deeply connected to it. It means letting go of rigid ideas and embracing change. Madhyamaka is not just a theory. It is a radical way of seeing. When we stop grasping at things as fixed and permanent, we free ourselves from suffering. We become more open, flexible, and at peace with the flow of life. Zoroastrian Dualism, the cosmic battle between light and darkness. What if every choice you made was part of a great cosmic battle? A struggle not just between people, but between the forces of good and evil, shaping the destiny of the world itself. This is the foundation of Zoroastrian dualism, one of the oldest and most influential religious ideas in history. Over 3,000 years ago, a Persian prophet named Zoroaster introduced a vision of the universe unlike any before it. He taught that the world is a battlefield between two great forces, Ahura Mazda, the force of light, truth, and wisdom, and Angra Mainyu, the force of darkness, deception, and destruction. Unlike many religions where good and evil exist in shades of grey, Zoroastrianism presents them as absolute opposites locked in an ongoing war. Ahura Mazda, meaning wise lord, is the creator of everything pure and good. He represents order, truth, and justice. the foundation of a world in harmony. Opposing him is Angra Mainyu, also called the Deceiver, who spreads lies, chaos, and suffering. Every illness, disaster, and act of cruelty is his work, seeking to undo creation itself. But this battle is not just between gods, it plays out through human choices. One of the most unique ideas in Zoroastrianism is free will. Unlike beliefs that see fate as fixed, Zoroastrianism teaches that every person plays a role in the war between good and evil. Every honest act, every kind word, and every selfless deed strengthens the force of light. Every lie, betrayal, or selfish action feeds the darkness. The fate of the world is not predetermined. It depends on the choices of those who live in it. To guide people in this battle, Zoroastrianism teaches three simple but powerful rules: good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. These are not just moral values, but the weapons in the fight for a better world. Living by these principles means bringing balance and order to life, helping Ahura Mazda's light grow stronger. A key symbol of Zoroastrianism is fire, representing purity, truth, and wisdom. Zoroastrian temples contain sacred fires that burn continuously, reminding followers that the light of truth must never go out. Fire is not worshipped, it is a symbol of enlightenment, a guide to keep people on the right path. This struggle between light and darkness also extends beyond life itself. Upon death, the soul is judged. Those who lived with truth and kindness cross a sacred bridge into a world of light. Those who gave in to deception and cruelty face suffering. But unlike some religions that speak of eternal punishment, Zoroastrianism teaches that evil will not last forever. One day, Ahura Mazda will triumph, and all souls, no matter how lost, will be purified, bringing the universe back to perfect harmony. Though no longer a major world religion, Zoroastrianism shaped Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, introducing ideas of heaven and hell, angels and demons, and a final battle between good and evil. Even today, echoes of its teachings can be found in stories, ethics, and the way people think about morality. Zoroastrian dualism is more than just a belief system. It is a way of seeing the world. It reminds us that every action matters, that truth and deception are real forces, and that the future is shaped by the choices we make. In an age where misinformation, conflict, and corruption exist everywhere, this ancient wisdom feels more relevant than ever. Tengrism, the ancient spirituality of the eternal sky. Long before organized religions spread across the world, there were people who lived in harmony with nature, who saw the sky as sacred, and who believed that every river, mountain, and animal carried a spirit. Among these ancient traditions was Tengrism, the indigenous shamanistic belief system of the Mongols and Turkic peoples of Central Asia. Rooted in a deep reverence for the natural world and the unseen forces that guide it, Tengrism remains one of the oldest and most profound spiritual traditions, one that shaped empires, warriors, and entire civilizations. At the heart of Tengrism is Tengri, the eternal blue sky, considered the supreme force of the universe. Unlike the personal gods of many religions, Tengri is not a deity with human-like qualities, but a vast, impersonal cosmic presence. The sky is eternal, unchanging, and beyond human control, yet it watches over all things. Tengri is the giver of life, the force behind fate, and the source of power for rulers and warriors. The balance of existence depends on maintaining harmony with Tengri and the natural world. Alongside Tengri, Tengrism recognizes countless spirits of nature, known as on-god or Ezens, which inhabit mountains, rivers, trees, and even animals. Unlike in monotheistic religions, where the divine is often separate from the world, Tengrism sees the sacred as woven into the very fabric of existence. To harm nature is to disturb this balance. Many rituals in Tengrism involve offerings to the spirits of the land, seeking their favor and guidance. Mountains in particular are considered sacred, as they are seen as bridges between the earth and the sky. A key figure in Tengrism is the shaman, a spiritual leader who acts as a bridge between humans and the spirit world. Shamans are not priests. They do not preach doctrines or serve a single god. Instead, they enter trance-like states, often through drumming, chanting, or consuming sacred herbs, to communicate with spirits and ancestors. They perform healing rituals, guide souls to the afterlife, and help maintain the balance between the seen and unseen worlds. Unlike in many religions where spiritual power is centralized, in Tengrism, each tribe or family often has its own shaman, making the tradition deeply personal and locally rooted. One of the most striking aspects of Tengrism is its belief in fate and personal responsibility. The concept of Kut refers to a person's life energy or destiny, granted by Tengri at birth. While fate plays a role in shaping a person's life, Tengrism does not encourage blind submission to destiny. Instead, it teaches that individuals must act with honor, courage, and wisdom to fulfill their potential. A ruler or warrior who loses Tengri's favor may suffer defeat, while a just and strong leader will be supported by the heavens. This belief deeply influenced Genghis Khan, who saw his conquests not as personal ambition, but as a divine mission entrusted to him by Tengri. The Mongol Empire, the largest land empire in history, was built upon the principles of Tengrism, where leaders ruled with the understanding that they were accountable to the sky. Tengrism is also a philosophy of balance and respect. Unlike religions that emphasize good versus evil, Tengrism focuses on maintaining harmony in all things. The forces of nature, life, and death are not in opposition, but part of a great cosmic cycle. Humans, as part of this world, must respect and honor these forces rather than trying to dominate or control them. The three realms of existence, the sky, the earth, and the underworld, must all remain in balance. When one is disturbed, chaos follows, whether in the form of natural disasters, disease, or misfortune. Even though Tengrism was once the dominant belief system of the Mongol and Turkic peoples, it was later overshadowed by Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity. However, many of its traditions never disappeared. In Mongolia, shamanic rituals are still performed, offerings are made to nature spirits, and the idea of Tengri as the great cosmic force still lingers in cultural beliefs. Even today, Mongolian leaders invoke Tengri's blessing, and nomadic herders continue to show deep reverence for the land and sky. In the modern world, where people have become increasingly disconnected from nature, Tengrism offers a powerful reminder. We are not separate from the earth, nor are we its masters. The sky has watched over humanity for thousands of years, and it will continue to do so long after we are gone. By respecting the balance of nature, listening to the wisdom of our ancestors, and living with courage and honor, we walk in harmony with the eternal sky. Chan Buddhism, the path of direct awakening. What if enlightenment wasn't something you had to search for? What if the truth you seek is already here, hidden beneath layers of thought and illusion? This is the essence of Chan Buddhism, the Chinese school of Zen that teaches direct experience over theory, spontaneous wisdom over scripture, and the realization that enlightenment is not something you achieve, it is something you wake up to. Chan Buddhism emerged in China during the 6th century CE, blending elements of Indian Buddhism with the naturalism of Taoism. The name Chan comes from the Sanskrit word dhyana, meaning meditation, reflecting its deep emphasis on stillness and awareness. Unlike many other Buddhist traditions, which focus on sacred texts and philosophical study, Chan rejects reliance on words. Instead, it encourages direct insight, a sudden, profound awakening to reality as it is. This approach would later evolve into Zen Buddhism in Japan, but its roots lie in the monasteries, mountains, and poetic simplicity of ancient China. The foundation of Chan Buddhism is silent meditation, or zazen, where practitioners sit without seeking anything. No enlightenment, no goal, no escape. It is in this stillness that one can see the nature of the mind clearly. While other Buddhist traditions emphasize gradual enlightenment over many lifetimes, Chan holds that awakening can happen in an instant. A simple moment of pure awareness, like the sound of the wind, the sight of a falling leaf, or the laughter of a child, can suddenly reveal the nature of existence. This is why Chan masters often reject complex explanations, instead pointing their students to experience reality directly. A famous story illustrates this perfectly. When a group of monks asked the great master Bodhidharma, the legendary founder of Chan, about the essence of Buddhism, he simply sat in silent meditation. After a long pause, he said, "Vast emptiness, nothing holy." With this, he shattered their expectations. He wasn't offering doctrine, he was pointing them to truth itself. Chan teachers often used unexpected methods to break their students free from habitual thinking. This included paradoxical riddles, sudden shouts, or even physical actions like slaps or blows. These shocks to the system were not acts of cruelty, but attempts to jolt students out of their intellectual traps. One monk once asked, "What is the Buddha?" The master simply replied, "A dried piece of dung." The point was not to be offensive, but to show that truth is not found in words or holy images. It is right here in the simplest and most ordinary things. Another key teaching in Chan Buddhism is, ordinary mind is the way. Unlike traditions that separate the sacred from the mundane, Chan sees no division between them. Drinking tea, sweeping the floor, walking through a forest, these are not distractions from enlightenment. They are enlightenment if one is fully present. Awakening does not mean escaping reality, but being completely immersed in it, free of attachment, free of illusion. Chan also teaches the concept of Wu Wei, or effortless action, borrowed from Taoism. This means acting in harmony with the natural flow of life instead of forcing things. A Chan practitioner does not struggle to attain wisdom. It arises naturally like a tree growing or a river flowing. By letting go of resistance and seeing things as they are, one finds liberation not in some distant future, but in this very moment. Historically, Chan Buddhism deeply influenced Chinese art, poetry, and martial arts. Calligraphy, painting, and even the tea ceremony were transformed by Chan ideals, emphasizing spontaneity, simplicity, and deep attention to the present moment. Many famous Kung Fu traditions, including Shaolin martial arts, are rooted in Chan Buddhism, blending mindfulness with movement, discipline with flow. The fighting monks of Shaolin practiced meditation alongside their physical training, seeing no separation between body and mind, between action and stillness. In modern times, Chan offers a powerful antidote to the chaos of everyday life. In a world overwhelmed by distractions, social pressures, and endless desires, Chan reminds us that peace is already here. We just need to see it. We are constantly searching for meaning, chasing happiness in external things, yet Chan reveals that what we seek has never been lost. The mind that suffers is the same mind that can awaken, just as a still pond reflects the moon perfectly when it is undisturbed. Chan Buddhism is not a belief system. It is a direct personal encounter with life itself. It asks no one to follow blindly, but instead to see for themselves, to meditate, to observe, to wake up. The path is not in scriptures or temples. It is wherever you are, in whatever you do, in the very breath you are taking right now. Tantric Buddhism, the fast path to enlightenment. What if the key to enlightenment wasn't found in retreating from the world, but in embracing it fully? What if desire, energy, and even the chaos of life could be transformed into tools for awakening? This is the essence of Tantric Buddhism, an advanced and mysterious path that teaches that enlightenment is not something far away. It is something that can be realized in this very life. Unlike other Buddhist traditions that focus on slow, step-by-step progress over many lifetimes, Tantric Buddhism, also called Vajrayana, or the Diamond Path, is designed to bring rapid transformation. It takes the core teachings of Buddhism and amplifies them, using powerful rituals, visualizations, and deep meditative techniques. Practitioners don't just study wisdom, they embody it, training the mind to experience the world in a completely new way. One of the most striking aspects of Tantric Buddhism is its use of energy. While many spiritual paths teach renouncing desires, Tantric Buddhism takes a different approach. It sees energy, whether it is passion, emotion, or even suffering, not as something to suppress, but as something to transform. A common saying in Tantra is, poison becomes medicine. Instead of rejecting the raw forces of life, Tantra teaches how to redirect them toward enlightenment. A key practice in Tantric Buddhism is visualization. Practitioners meditate on sacred images of enlightened beings, known as deities or Buddhas, not as distant gods, but as reflections of their own awakened nature. By identifying with these forms, they train the mind to think, feel, and act like an enlightened being. This process is more than imagination. It is a deep rewiring of the way the mind works. Another important aspect is the use of mantras, sacred sounds that carry spiritual power. These mantras are repeated in meditation, creating vibrations that are believed to align the mind with deeper states of awareness. Tantric Buddhism also makes use of mudras, which are hand gestures that symbolize different states of consciousness, and mandalas, intricate geometric patterns that represent the structure of the universe. These symbols are not just artistic, they are designed to train the mind to perceive reality in a new, more awakened way. One of the boldest teachings in Tantra is the idea that the ordinary world and enlightenment are not separate. Many traditions see spiritual awakening as something distant, something that requires leaving behind normal life. But Tantric Buddhism teaches that everything, even the everyday experiences of love, work, and emotions, can be used as a path to wisdom. This idea is why Tantric Buddhism is sometimes seen as a path for those willing to embrace life fully, rather than escape from it. However, because of its powerful and sometimes risky practices, Tantric Buddhism has traditionally been taught only to advanced students. It is said that a sharp tool in the hands of an untrained person can do more harm than good. This is why guidance from a teacher or guru is considered essential. A true teacher does not just give knowledge, they guide students through the experiences that transform them. Tantric Buddhism has had a profound impact on Tibetan culture, where it became the dominant form of Buddhism. Its influence can be seen in Tibetan monasteries, sacred rituals, and even in the practices of the Dalai Lama. But beyond Tibet, its teachings have spread worldwide, attracting those who seek not just to understand enlightenment, but to experience it directly. In today's world, where people are often overwhelmed by stress, distraction, and inner conflict, Tantric Buddhism offers a radical message. Everything you need for enlightenment is already within you. The mind itself, when trained and understood, can transform all experiences into wisdom. Tantric Buddhism is not about waiting for a distant goal. It is about waking up right now, seeing the sacred in the ordinary, and using every moment of life as fuel for transformation. The School of Naturalists, the hidden forces that shape the universe. What if the universe was not ruled by gods, fate, or human will, but by patterns found in nature itself? What if everything, from the change of seasons to human behavior, was governed by forces that we could observe, understand, and align ourselves with? This is the foundation of the School of Naturalists, one of the lesser-known but deeply influential schools of ancient Chinese philosophy. The School of Naturalists, also known as the Yin-Yang School, emerged during the Warring States period, a time of chaos and competing philosophies in China. While Confucianism focused on social order, legalism on strict laws, and Taoism on flowing with nature, the naturalists sought to explain the world through patterns found in the natural world itself. They believed that by understanding these forces, humans could live in harmony with nature and create a stable society. At the heart of naturalist thought are two key ideas, yin-yang theory and the five elements. These concepts became central not only to Chinese philosophy, but also to medicine, astrology, politics, and even martial arts. One of the most famous ideas from the school of naturalists is the yin-yang theory. It teaches that everything in the universe exists as a balance of opposite but complementary forces. Yin represents the passive, dark, cool, and feminine aspects of existence, while yang represents the active, bright, warm, and masculine aspects. Rather than being in conflict, these forces constantly interact, shaping the world through their dynamic balance. For example, day turns into night, and night turns into day. Neither is absolute, and each contains the seed of the other. Strength and softness, movement and stillness, life and death, all things exist in a constant cycle of transformation. The key to harmony is not resisting these forces, but understanding and working with them. The yin-yang model was applied to everything, from health and medicine to politics and personal life. If a person was sick, it was believed that their yin and yang were out of balance, and treatments were designed to restore harmony. In leadership, a ruler who was too harsh, too much yang, needed to balance his rule with kindness, more yin, and vice versa. In addition to yin-yang theory, the naturalists developed the concept of the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. These elements were not just physical substances, but fundamental forces that govern change and cycles in both nature and human life. Each element interacts with the others in 2 main ways: a creation cycle, where one element produces the next, like wood fueling fire, and a control cycle, where one element limits another, like water extinguishing fire. This system was used to explain everything from the seasons to emotions, body health, and even political strategy. For example, in traditional Chinese medicine, the 5 elements were used to understand how different organs in the body relate to each other. In politics, rulers used this theory to justify the rise and fall of dynasties, claiming that one ruling power was overcome by the next, in accordance with natural cycles. Although the school of naturalists did not survive as an independent tradition, like Confucianism or Taoism, its ideas became deeply embedded in Chinese culture. The concepts of yin-yang and the 5 elements influenced Chinese medicine, feng shui, astrology, and even military strategy. Martial arts like Tai Chi and Kung Fu use yin-yang principles in movement and balance. Acupuncture and herbal medicine rely on 5-element theory to restore harmony in the body. Even today, these ideas shape the way people in East Asia understand health, nature, and human relationships. The belief that life must be lived in balance between work and rest, effort and relaxation, activity and stillness is an echo of the naturalist school's wisdom. In a time when people are constantly overwhelmed by stress, overwork, and imbalance, the teachings of the school of naturalists feel more relevant than ever. Modern science has shown that many of these ancient observations were surprisingly accurate. Our bodies, emotions, and even ecosystems function in cycles and interdependent relationships. Perhaps the greatest lesson from the school of naturalists is that humans are not separate from nature. We are part of it. The forces that shape the universe also shape us, and by understanding them, we can live in greater harmony with both ourselves and the world around us. Kalachakra, the wheel of time and the secrets of the universe. What if time was not just a sequence of past, present, and future, but an intricate cycle reflecting both the cosmos and the human mind? What if hidden within this cycle was a map to enlightenment, a path that could transform both the individual and the world itself? This is the mystical teaching of Kalachakra, the wheel of time, one of the most complex and esoteric systems in Tibetan Buddhism. Kalachakra is not just a philosophy, it is an advanced form of Tantric Buddhism that integrates astronomy, meditation, spiritual transformation, and even political prophecy. The word Kala means time, and chakra means wheel, symbolizing the endless cycles that govern both the external universe and our inner consciousness. Unlike other Buddhist teachings that focus primarily on individual liberation, Kalachakra expands the scope to include cosmic time, world events, and even the fate of civilization itself. The origins of Kalachakra trace back to ancient India, where it is believed that the Buddha himself transmitted this secret teaching to the legendary king Suchandra of Shambhala, a mystical kingdom hidden beyond the physical world. Shambhala is said to be a utopian realm where enlightened beings reside, awaiting the moment when the world is ready to receive its wisdom. According to Kalachakra prophecy, there will come a time when darkness and ignorance overtake the world, but a great king from Shambhala will rise to restore balance, leading humanity into a new age of wisdom. At its core, Kalachakra presents 3 levels of time: external, internal, and enlightened time. External time refers to the cycles of the universe, the movements of planets, seasons, and cosmic ages. Internal time relates to the cycles within the human body, such as breath, energy flows, and life rhythms. Enlightened time is beyond all cycles, representing the eternal present, the state of pure awareness that transcends the illusion of past and future. The goal of Kalachakra practice is to align these 3 aspects of time, allowing the practitioner to break free from the cycle of suffering and reach enlightenment. One of the most famous aspects of Kalachakra is its mandala, a vast symbolic diagram representing the entire cosmos. Unlike simple geometric patterns, the Kalachakra mandala is a highly intricate, multi-dimensional map of the universe and the mind. Every element in the mandala corresponds to an aspect of existence: mountains, planets, deities, chakras, and spiritual forces. In advanced Kalachakra meditation, practitioners visualize themselves entering this mandala, dissolving their ordinary sense of self and merging with the enlightened universe. Kalachakra is also closely connected to Tantric Buddhist rituals, which use secret mantras, hand gestures, mudras, and deep visualization techniques to accelerate spiritual awakening. Unlike traditional meditation, which often focuses on emptiness and detachment, Kalachakra harnesses the energy of the body and mind, using it as a vehicle for transformation. These teachings are so powerful that they are only given to advanced students who have undergone special initiations. The Kalachakra Tantra is unique among Buddhist teachings because it also addresses global events. It speaks of vast cosmic cycles where wisdom and ignorance rise and fall, predicting periods of great war and suffering, followed by renewal and enlightenment. Some interpretations link these prophecies to historical events, suggesting that Kalachakra offers not just spiritual guidance, but insight into the fate of civilizations. Even in modern times, Kalachakra remains one of the most revered and mysterious traditions in Tibetan Buddhism. The Dalai Lama himself has given Kalachakra initiations to thousands of followers worldwide, believing that its teachings can bring peace and stability to both individuals and nations. Unlike other Buddhist paths focused only on personal enlightenment, Kalachakra suggests that inner peace and outer harmony are deeply connected. If individuals awaken to their true nature, the world itself can be transformed. Kalachakra is more than just a philosophy. It is a vision of time, consciousness, and reality itself. It teaches that past, present, and future are not separate but woven together in a great cosmic dance. The key to liberation is not escaping time, but understanding it, aligning with its rhythms, and ultimately transcending it.